Theresa May's Brexit war cabinet has agreed to offer billions more in EU divorce payments in return for a free trade deal. Brussels sources had indicated they would not consider opening talks unless the UK hands over about £40 billion, double the amount previously suggested by the Prime Minister. The plan for an increased offer, which is set to prompt a Tory revolt, comes after 10 key ministers met amid tight secrecy in Downing Street, ahead of a crunch summit next month. Sources suggested they had agreed to raise the offer to the EU, but only in return for assurances on a future trade deal. Precise figures were not discussed in yesterday's two-hour meeting, and the final sum would only be agreed once a trade deal has been struck. The move represents an uneasy compromise between Remainers led by Philip Hammond and pro-Brexit ministers led by Boris Johnson, who told Mrs May he could not accept a unilateral offer unless it came with guarantees on our future relationship with the EU. The prospect of a bigger divorce payment sparked anger on the Tory benches last night. MPs warned that, with the budget taking place tomorrow, the government risks a public backlash if it hands billions to Brussels as austerity continues at home. Others pointed to chaos in Germany, where Angela Merkel is facing fresh elections. One cabinet minister said, "What we are willing to agree on the bill is one issue, but is the EU capable of agreeing anything with Germany in crisis?" Former Tory leader Ian Duncan-Smith said the PM had made a generous offer of £20 billion in her speech in Florence in September. "We should not be offering any more money at this stage," he stressed. "Negotiation is about strength and courage, and we have to make sure we don't give in every time they ask for more. This week the Chancellor will stand up and tell us we need to get the deficit down and can't make any spending commitments, while on the other hand saying we are going to give the EU more money. Voters will ask, why is the EU more important than them?" Fellow Tory Nigel Evans said the PM should resist ransom demands from the EU. He urged her to show the same steel as Margaret Thatcher did when negotiating Britain's rebate in the 80s, adding, "We cannot play Santa for Juncker, and Scrooge for public services. The public will not accept it, and they are right not to." Even pro-Remain Tories voiced doubts. Former Minister Robert Halfon said, "If we start saying that we are going to give £40 billion to the EU, I think the public will go bananas, absolutely spare. I voted Remain, but we voted to leave, the public want to leave, and I cannot believe that the public would accept such a huge amount when we need money for our schools, our hospitals, our housing, and many other things." Downing Street remained tight-lipped about the outcome of yesterday's meeting, but a source said, "It remains our position that nothing's agreed until everything's agreed in negotiations with the EU." As the Prime Minister said this morning, the UK and the EU should step forward together. Another insider insisted that the agreement was not about dangling a carrot in front of Brussels. "If we move, it will be because they are moving. We will move together," the source said. "We are talking about reciprocity." Speaking ahead of the meeting, the Prime Minister said she had already made it clear the UK would honour our commitments made during years of EU membership. She will now discuss the new divorce bill offer with European Council President Donald Tusk on Friday. She hopes to strike a deal that will see Brussels agree to open formal trade talks next month, in return for greater clarity from the UK on the divorce bill. Yesterday's meeting also saw lengthy discussion of the continuing differences with Brussels over the future of the Northern Ireland border and the status of EU citizens. Sources played down reports that ministers had agreed to give the European Court of Justice jurisdiction over the rights of EU citizens in the UK after Brexit.